This is a debate night, but this is an open debate. So what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be introducing the topic and opening our phone lines for us to discuss. I have with me as our guest analyst, Mr. Jimin Eastman. Jimin, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Hey, Dennis, thank you. Hello, all Focus audience. I hope we have a educational night um, and good entertainment.
Great. And Jimmy, I want to welcome you for the first time on Focus on Liberia. I know you've been on the audio. Sometimes you call in and you've been very supportive of what we do here. We want to say for the first time on Focus on Liberia, thanks so much for honoring our invitation.
Definitely, Dennis. This program is educational. It's something that you can. There's exchange going on that all Liberians can glean from. It allows you to experience the thoughts of professionals. It's very, very refreshing. The debates are healthy, and I hope to see the longevity of this program.
Thank you. Again, viewers across the globe, we say invite somebody, share the video, and while you share that, continue to listen to this music. Viewers, the debate is for you tonight. This is our chance to say, let's have an open debate about this very crucial topic. And before we start, let me just lay the foundation. I know the topic is kind of worded in a very weird way, but just to put a context to it, most of the time, Jimmy, we discuss about what's going on in our country. Oh, Liberia is bad, Liberia is corrupt, or we complain of our leaders and we say all these things. But sometimes the crucial question being asked, and the goal of this is to find solutions. It's not really, you can see the word blame in the topic, but it's just an academic debate or discussion so that we can find causes to the problem that confront us on a daily basis. As we move from one president to another, for me personally, I grew up during the Doe era, and there was this, political agitation will always be there, of course. That's what makes our democracy work. So people are going to complain, but we want to see how we can move the country forward. So we say with all the things we complain about in government, who really is responsible? Is it the government leadership? And we say government leadership, we're talking about president, vice president, ministers, elected officials, all those in government leadership. Or do we blame the people who vote for them and who also sometimes are acquiesced or are willing participants in these malpractices and all corruption and misrule that we often complain about? So Jimmy, before we start, let me also get your understanding of the topic and how important it is for us to discuss it tonight.
Okay, Ja. So from my understanding, we have a democracy, and a democracy has to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. In other words, it's the power belongs to the people. The elect officials exercise the power for the constituents. So the question is, if things are going south, if things are going wrong, whose fault is it? Or whose responsibility is it to turn things around? I believe that's the question here today.
Exactly. And this question has always been discussed, but we have not really had such an intellectual debate so that we can delve into it more thoroughly. We can scrutinize. I hate for people to categorize people. Sometimes they say, oh, Liberians are lazy. Oh, Liberians are corrupt. Oh, Liberians are. So tonight we're going to be doing some facts finding. We're going to be doing some root cause analysis as we bring up these things to see whose fault it is. And if things are going wrong, because if we can analyze and see that this is where things are, then as one or manager said, we need one neck to hold when things are going bad. So that when things are going bad and we are not satisfied, then we see where to go for solutions, for answers. Who neck we're going to squeeze when things are going haywire. That's the issue I want us to discuss. And if you are joining us, we are posting our number very early. That is 605-313-6004. The code is 791403. And before we go into all the discussion, Jimmy, there are other things that are happening today. We saw that in DC, there was a march, and also in Liberia. People are participating in our democracy, because if these things don't happen, there is no democracy.
That's right.
By the people. So there was things, and we're going to kind of touch on some of these things happening in Liberia and also here. So before we jump into our debate tonight, let's talk about the march in Washington D.C. What do you make of it?
Okay, Dennis. You know, I was privileged to be a part of that demonstration today. The main theme of the demonstration is we are hearing echoes of rumors of war once again. There were times before when there was agitation, people were calling for protest, and we didn't fully comprehend the extent of how or what protests, especially when they get out of hand, what they can do. But this time, we are more aware of the consequences of wanton, unruly protests and chaos. So as soon as there were echoes of the president needs to step down, and this is a president who was constitutionally elected through a democratic process, that was the will of the people. But now we are hearing that he should step down, and that they will demonstrate and cause chaos until he does. We know this is going to plunge us back into those dark days when we were running for our lives. Mamas had to carry their babies on their heads and on their backs. People were not able to eat for days. Brothers were killing brothers. We don't want to see that again. If there needs to be a change, or if somebody wants to lay a complaint, they need to do so in a manner consistent with our Constitution and our democratic process. The ballot box is where the battle should be going on, not in the bush, not in our backyards, not killing innocent people. If you want to battle in the ballot box, battle for the votes, but not to take carnage back to our people. So the expression today was an expression of concern to the government, to the Capitol building where the House of Legislators sits, telling them they don't want that the USA is used as a springboard, a platform to launch further chaos in Liberia, as has happened before. And similarly, there were sister protests or demonstrations really in Monrovia, and the same petition was given to the U.S. Embassy, to the EU, and other agencies around there. Yeah. Only expressing our concern that we do not want to be plunged back into those days that we had no, the memory of our Civil War came back, and we're trying our best to avoid that.
Okay. Yeah, Jimmy, the reason I brought this up, and it's very important in our discussion tonight, because that's the voice of the people. The people are coming up to say something. And as you said, you were part of that protest. There is a Simeon right here too. I believe he saw you. He said Jimmy was part of the protest. So James, I don't know which one, but I don't December 30th protest calling for we are to step down, even though there has been a change in actual what was written down. But from what the planners have been saying, that they were going to call for the president to step down and they were going to remain in the street until he's out. So, but to what, how does that amount to warmongering or threatening of war or breaking the president down by force?
Okay, very good. I think that's a legitimate question. Well, first of all, um, our activity today was not so much of a protest, but to bring an awareness to our international friends that we're beginning to hear some of the similar rhetoric that plunged us into a civil war before. So to directly answer the question, though, what in that verbiage or what in the language made us afraid, that gave us alarm? What gave us alarm was um, if one wants to have to change the administration, as is sought after here, you need to go through the legislature and have that person or that administration impeached. It is not to stop businesses from running, to get in the street, to stop, to bring the government, the economy, all transactions to a halt. That could lead to someone else who favors the government retaliating, and it's in that retaliation is when carnage can break out, because that will provide a theater for miscreants to go and start doing things to profit, like breaking in, looting, harming, raping people. Because once you have this theater where people are in conflict, a lot of evil can be done under the guise of conflict. So we believe that those cries of a president has to resign, and we will be in the streets demonstrating until he does, that is provocative, and we knew that was could cause a problem, and that's what made us alarmed.
Okay. And as we delve into our topic tonight, I know we're going to revisit this thing because that's the action of the people versus the action of the government, and see how the power play results into what we experience on a yearly basis in Liberia. So let's go back to our topic tonight. Who is to blame largely for bad governance in Liberia? Let's start by first talking about the role that each of these people play in governing the country. Let's say the people, starting with the people are, are supposed to vote. They are supposed to carry on like they did today in DC, and also they're going to do on December 30th, demonstrate or protest, or they join the picket line. They have to participate in the democracy, because if there's no participation in the democracy, there is no democracy. So the people role, they vote. They work in the government. They are civil servants, and they become watchdogs as well as whistleblowers and what have you. So the people they have role and responsibility to play in governing the country. Sometimes we look at just our role and we don't look at the responsibilities. So let's set the stage by this. On the side of the government, they are the leaders. So people are elected, for example, in the House to pass laws. We have police. We have 3 branches of government that are supposed to serve as check and balances, and all these. So all these roles and responsibilities are distributed across the board, both the governed and the one that are in power. So when there is a slack somewhere else, we see the kind of problem that we see. So let me hear from you on the role and responsibility of citizens and also the government, and see how any breakdown can cause chaos or can cause corruption, can cause misrule, and so forth.
Okay, there are different kinds of democracy. There's a parliamentary democracy, which is ours. In a parliamentary democracy, the people elect people who want to represent them. And they give them their franchise to make decisions for them. Okay? So people will elect, the constituencies are formed. They can consist of varying amount of people. They will have a representative, and that representative goes to the central body of parliament or legislature, and decisions for that group will be made by that representative. That is in a parliamentary type of democracy. They have other types of democracy, like participatory, where actually the people themselves are directly taking decisions affecting them. That is very more complex, and it's more challenging to do.
Sure.
So the most common type of democracy has been the parliamentary type of democracy.
Right.
Okay.
And we have the people are represented, or the representative
Right.
democracy.
Right. So it is in some parliamentary democracies, they are also vested with the power to elect who becomes president. Okay, we are type of democracy. We the people elect who they want to be president, but there are other democracies that the people that you vote for, they will go and vote and decide who should become the head of the executive. Now, there are three branches of government in our democracy. There's the executive, there's the judicial, and the legislative. The executive is responsible to execute the law. They control the armed forces. They make decisions for the various departments and ministries in the country.
Hello, Jim. Jimmy, did somebody call your phone? Your volume just changed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it start getting kind of a little squeaky.
Really? Nobody called my phone. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, your voice just changed. It's like something else is going on with the phone.
Let me see. How does it sound now?
Still not better.
Let me see.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. Tonight, this is our debate Friday. We are discussing bad governance, all the bad things we talk about, misrule, corruption, and all the things we don't like to see. Who is largely responsible? Is it our government leadership or the people? Let me hear you again, Jimmy.
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
Yeah,
How do you?
that's
Much better?
Yeah, much better. And,
So,
if you have Facebook on in your car, just turn it down, all the way down. That way we
Okay.
don't have feedback.
Okay. So, in our democracy, there are three branches of government. The executive that makes the decision they control the armed forces, they control the departments or the ministries, they control our foreign affairs, they make all the decisions for handling the government. Executing the law. Then they have the legislative. They are responsible for the laws. They enact the laws, they make the laws, and the executive enforces the laws. They also have oversight over the executive and their decisions. So if the executive, they serve as a check and balance. If the executive is doing something that is contrary to the Constitution or contrary to the interests of the people, it is the legislation that keeps them in check. And then we have the judicial. The judicial is responsible for the interpreting the law. They're the ones that when you have conflict or when there's punitive measures that have been taken up against the citizens, it's the judicial that will interpret the law and determine how it should be decided. Okay. Now, so The executive, though he has all the power invested in him to act for the country, his power is only constrained by the legislative branch. So if things are not functioning the way it should, the check and balance for executive power has to be counterbalanced by the legislative branch.
Right. So let's look at some of those problems that we sometimes refer to as bad governance, because you lay it out very well about the roles and responsibility of each of these people. So now some of these things that happen in government and we see that happen in the country, and we see that oh, the country is bad. Number one, corruption. When people are not managing the country's resources, they are not transparent, people are not accountable. Also, when the schools are bad, the one or the former president referred to, the school system is a mess. When we have poor healthcare, we blame that on that as things not going well in the country. When there's inflation, high inflation, when there's high unemployment, when there's lack of infrastructure, lack of amenities in the country, and all these things are just bad. People complain, and we look at that as poor governance, that our leadership is not doing well. So the question we say, okay, with all these problems now, because we want to fix them, that's why we want to see where can whose neck we can squeeze. So when we look at all these problems, in your view, when there is bad governance in the country, who is really accountable? Who is really responsible? So that, and which button, and that if we know who's responsible, we know which button to press to fix them. What's your take?
That's a good question, and it's full of volume. First of all power is within the people. The people have all power. All right, and it is not the first, but when the governments are not behaving the way they should, it's the people that give the government power. And ultimately, the people can take power back from whatever administration they are on. There are cases where we have a dictatorship, and the people the dictator doesn't allow the people to take power back. But ultimately, it's the people that have the power in a democracy that we practice. When things go wrong, of course, initially, they're barring acts of God. For instance, hurricanes, floods, famines. Those things can happen, and it's outside the control of any government or administration. But if the government is not enacting programs that will to help the people realize their livelihood. The main part this government is supposed to do is enable people to live in peace, realize their goals, dreams, and objectives, and provide the atmosphere that they can progress. And when they are not able to progress, then the government has to either change what they're doing, or the people will have to change that administration to one that can do it for them. The power is always invested in the people, and the government and administration that they elect needs to ensure that they are providing the atmosphere, the conditions for the people to thrive and prosper. When they fail to do that, the people can take the power from them.
And that's the difficult part. Will come as to how people can do that. But many are saying that every government is a representation of the people. So, what you see is what you get. So if the people themselves are corrupt government, so it becomes the chicken or the egg country. Is it because the people in government are bad? That's why they are manipulating the people in such a way so that they will do the wrong thing? Or because the people there are corrupt, that's why they're always consistently putting corrupt people in government who are not meeting their needs? So which one comes first? Who really shares the greatest responsibility for any bad governance that we have?
All democracies, all those people who have theorized, even back in the days of the earlier democracy in ancient Greece, it's always been maintained that the population, the people, have to be exposed. They have to be educated about their well-being.
Yeah.
Without that knowledge, it's difficult for them to make the right decisions. Okay, so it is very important that people are exposed, are educated to what is best for them. Okay, so that is a crucial element of a democracy.
Right.
Now, you mentioned a good point. The people who are elected are you're all the same population. And so if you have a population that doesn't believe in upholding the law,
Exactly.
if they don't believe in accountability, if they think that you can bend the law or bypass the law, it should be the norm, then when you go to election, you'll probably elect somebody with that same mentality, and that's what you'll get as government.
Yeah.
It is really the people, what they believe in, what they want the government to represent them as. They has to be manifest in the government. So if we have a people that are not holding to, we need to obey the law, we need to be transparent, we need to be accountable. If the general population is not holding that, then it is quite possible that they will elect a government that will not hold to that either.
And one thing to look at too is the government, especially government over time, is able to create those kind of conditions that will make the people that way. Because in order for any democracy to work, we need an educated, informed, citizen to take part. So, like for instance, in the Constitution is the responsibility of the government to educate the people. It's the responsibility of the government to teach the Constitution or to make sure that the Constitution is taught in all schools. So, especially if you have years of bad government, they manipulate the people to think a certain way.
Yes, the reason, especially when it comes to education, it is very significant responsibility to educate the people. And I wish you had the Constitution right in front of you.
Yes, I have one because I.
Well, why don't we read that part where it shows that education is partly the responsibility of the government.
Yeah. Right. And why I look for that, let me bring in our first caller so that because we want everyone to take part and we want many people to call to tell us who they think is responsible. Call out your name and where you're calling from.
Hey, my name is Anthony Gay. I'm calling from Pennsylvania.
Anthony, welcome to Focus on Liberia. I know you heard the question that we are discussing tonight. What's your view?
Yeah, so pretty much, thanks for having me, first of all, and also thanks to your special guest on the show. Basically, what is happening right there is something, I don't think it's a huge question of who is responsible. The government is responsible, not the people. The people are not the government official. The people selected these people to be represented officially at that level, and so they are given a task. For instance, let me give a scenario here.
Right.
In the business world, you got CEOs, who take over companies, and they are measured based on quarterly or fiscal period for the company. If that CEO is not doing good,
do you have anything?
That CEO is gone, and the next person is brought in, to see how the company can be on track. We see that happening with big corporations. It's the same thing with government. The positive side for government is that the way CEO are fired, government officials are not fired in that manner. That's the only leverage they have. So then we have people who are supposed to keep the government in check, and those are the legislature. There are three branches of government. The first branch of the government keep the government itself in check. That's why they have check and balance. Also, they're writing, bills and whatnot, but checks and balance is where our lawmaker comes in place. I was very shocked that after the Crow report, and three different investigations, the last one was the GAC one, and finger were pointed at so many individuals from the GAC one, and our lawmaker did not follow with this. I'm surprised after this time we are not talking about impeachment inquiry in Liberia by our lawmaker. And in part, it's all because I always said perhaps they don't know their job function, or they just don't care, or maybe it may not be the first two that I mentioned. It may be because they are afraid that they may not be re-elected, or they're not going to get what they're supposed to get. Most of them think as though they work at the will of pleasure of the president instead of they're representing the people.
And
you are elected, you are not appointed. If you are appointed, then yes, you work at the will of pleasure of the president.
Hello?
When you are elected.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Lower your Facebook at the background there, because we are having background noises. So if you're listening to anything, here's my question to you.
No, I don't. I don't have a Facebook on. I'm calling directly from my phone.
That's okay. Here's my question to you. The legislators that you talk about, they are elected by the right? So the people have the right to not elect them the following year, right? If they're not doing well. The people have the right to even, but the people are not exercising such power.
No, but I say this. It's like, you can take me to court, or you can take this man to court. Taking someone to court is not easy. It requires resources. It requires money. It requires time. It requires, you seeking counsel. It's the same thing. Waiting for another electoral process to elect another person. It's a whole long process. So that means our people will just struggle because, they have the power in their hand. So that means they can re-elect a group of people. That is just that.
Okay. Okay,
our people can do that, but how long? A senator lasts for 9 years in Liberia. 9 years.
Okay, right. you bring up a very
hold on. Let my guest analyst come in.
So you bring up a very good point.
Okay.
And hold that thought about the 9 years, because that is probably where the flaw is. And if we can point out all the different problems, but they will be symptoms. They may not be the cause. What you just mentioned may be the very cause. But let's look at the corporate environment that you may mention. You have the CEO, but the CEO answers to a board, okay? And that board, the corporate board, they determine who should be the next CEO. And if the CEO is not functioning, if the company is not progressing, they are losing money, it's the board that will replace the CEO. Now, if the shareholders who have invested in this company, if they feel that both the CEO and the board are in cahoots and they're not representing their interests, the first thing they do is to dissolve the board. All right, you dissolve the board, you elect a new board, and then board will get a new CEO. That's what you do in the corporate world. You hit on the nail. When senators are elected for 9 years, this was brought about in, I believe it was the 1986 Constitution that changed it. You have 9 years. You are not. It is very typical that you're not accountable to the people, because for 9 years they can't do nothing about it. That is why you don't have that length of time for a senator to be elected, because by making the term short, you are forcing him or her to return to the people every time to be reelected. That means they will make sure they're doing right by the people. Because if they don't, they'll be voted out of office. There's an accountability, and there's frequent elections make them accountable to the people who they represent. But if you elect a man for 9 years, and for the next 9 years, he doesn't even have to go to his township at all. That's not keeping him in check. You have to keep those. We have to need a mechanism to keep our people who represent us in check. And the only way to keep them in check is frequent elections to make sure that they are satisfying you, and if they're not, that you can replace them.
Right.
So that's part of the problem, that they are there way too long, and they're not being accountable to the people.
But Jimmy, each of us, we don't even want to change that because we think we're going to be the next senator to spend that same 9 years.
There is something, whenever we have people who are only thinking of themselves, and it's selfishness, that's part of the people now. Do we believe that our senators should be accountable? If the answer is yes, then nobody should be elected for more than a certain period of time. That's the only way to remain accountable to the people. Now, if you're thinking that I may be the next representative, that's why I don't want to change that, well, then you perpetuate the system.
And that's what we got. That's what we got, right? Because we are the people that are dancing behind them, making sure they are elected for 9 years, especially if we have that contention. So, caller, hold your thought there. Let me bring in another caller. But before I bring on that caller, Jimmy, let me read that part of the Constitution that you were talking about. Article 6. The Republic shall, because of the vital role assigned to the individual citizen under this Constitution for the social, economic, and political well-being of Liberia, provide equal access to educational opportunities and facilities for all citizens to the extent of available resources. Emphasis shall be placed on the mass education of the Liberian people and the elimination of illiteracy.
Thank you.
This is Constitution. To what extent are we holding the government to this as people? Let me read you another article for which I was thinking of. When I did this book with my company, I was thinking of suing the government because they broke this law. So I've been contacting lawyers. Let me read this portion of the Constitution, which I want to sue the government of Liberia for. It says, Article 10, the Republic shall ensure the publication and dissemination of this Constitution throughout the Republic and the teaching of its principles and provisions in all institutions of learning in Liberia. Is that happening? Why are we not holding the government responsible? Let me bring in my my next caller. Caller from 346 area code. Your name and where you calling from?
My name is Kesali Ndaba and I'm calling from Texas.
Kesali, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Who's responsible for all this bad governance? Is it the government or the people?
Thank you for the question and thank you for this show, for this very important topic. First of all, I will want to go back a little bit in answering your question.
Okay.
You know, when we were coming up as kids, our history taught us that we had two kinds of history, right? One was written and one is oral.
Yeah.
And we accept both of them, looking at the background we have as Liberians, where we have most of our people, majority of our people are not educated, and some of our educated. So most time when your old people set you down and tell you some of those stories, if you do a good background check, you will find out that those stories are true. Maybe it will be missing something. It might be very, very minor, right? It might be similar to the one that is also written.
Okay.
Okay. So I would want to hold the government solely responsible when it comes to educating us as people. For the fact that, you know, Liberia, we got our education from the West. When I mean education, I'm talking about alphabetical, learning how to read and write the alphabet. We got it from the West.
Western education.
And Yeah, and our old people told us that when this education was brought to us, it was brought to us with some level of restriction. That is to say, you have to have certain names, or you have to live with certain people to bear their name before you can have certain quality or certain level of education. That in itself was cruel on the part of the government back then. And governments that have come and gone have almost followed similar trends. I don't know if it's because of the past that they keep doing that and violating the Constitution grossly, or I really don't know, or because of cruelty. So I really want to hold the government solely responsible when it comes to the education aspect of not educating the people of Liberia.
Thank you.
You know, if they had done well as a government, we would have gone further and our people would have been educated. And I also want to touch on something
but before you continue, are you saying the problem here is education? Is it a lack of education? That's why the resources are being mismanaged. That's why there is corruption. That's why there is a poor facility.
Yes, 100% yes. 100% yes. Because, I mean, if we are educated, we will know how to hold our leaders accountable when they are doing some of these things.
But the people,
you know, we will not be taking side because this man is my brother. Yes, we will not be taking side because this man is my brother, this man is my sister. Majority of us will go because we are educated to that extent. We will say, yeah, we will know the difference between an individual who is corrupt, who is actually stealing from us, and an individual who is mistakenly doing something that is not right or that is being played on. We will know the difference between them. But because of the level of education we have, that's the reason why, I mean, it's happening the way it's happening.
But the people in government are educated now. Why are they performing poorly? Since education.
Exactly, like I just said previously. The people are performing poorly because we who elected them, majority of us are uneducated. We don't know the way to really push these people to the wall to be able to satisfy our desire as per the Constitution.
So we are responsible.
You know what I'm saying?
But so you are saying
we are not responsible. The government is 100% responsible.
Because the government that did not. Okay, I got your point.
Exactly.
All right, I got you.
That's the reason why it's happening the way it's happening.
Keep holding the line. If you have some time, keep holding the line. As we talk more, we're going to get back to you. Jimmy, he's talking about historical, but there is a push there for me to read the comments online. So let me read a few comments. First, Simeon Rice said Jimmy was part of the march in DC, and you are not denying that. He said,
no, I was there. Yeah, I have the T-shirt on.
Yeah, he said they are using scare tactics to prevent people from protesting. But let's get to the topic. Panjai Basakai say our argument is that this president is a naturalized American citizen and shouldn't have been elected president from. That's unconstitutional. That's kind of a little besides the topic here, but he's saying the president of Liberia is not Liberian, but that's for another day. Mansfield Duopo said there are more than 3 branches of government in modern political system. There is a 4th estate, the press, now with the advent of social media, where there are citizens, journalists, political scientists are theorizing that this is another branch of government. And, but
the 4th estate, yeah, I'm aware of that. We can touch that.
Yeah. Josh Keddy said the government is responsible. And also, Mansfield came back. He said, the history of bad governance in Liberia is as old as the nation state itself. The very premise of the foundation of the state was flawed. We need a total revolution of the nation state. We need a new, country and a sense of national awakening. Again, Judge Keddy say government system, control everything. What the caller was saying, first of all, Jimmy, is he's looking at the history.
Yes.
The country was settled by free slaves, and for 133 years, it was the the pioneers or the ex-slaves were in power, according to, and then there were some, the economy, everything was controlled by a few. He said this is partly, and then since that time, priorities have not been given to the mass education of the people. So when the people are not educated, that's why they are voting wrong, or that's why they are not holding their leaders accountable. What do you think?
I have to agree with that with the caller that lacking in education does contribute to how we make decisions and how we elect our officials. He is correct that from time within knowing there was access to education. What was mentioned in the Constitution was access to to education was not fair and level all throughout the country. It was not, and it was limited. And they may allude to the fact that resources were limited, but the Constitution did not say because you have limited resources, you should only have education in certain parts.
Right.
They should have, everyone should have had better access to education. It didn't have to be that you have to live with some family or some proximity to the city before you got it. It is government responsibility. Now, admittedly, the government was struggling to even make ends meet. The Liberia was almost dissolved. I'm not going to buffer what all transpired, but the early Liberia was hardly surviving. They weren't making the best use of the resources. We had a buccal land, as we say. We have buccal land. We have minerals in the ground, but we lacked the expertise to make money out of the soil, and so they were lacking. Whereas the European colonies, they were able to leverage the European expertise as were already gained, but those colonies were another form of slavery. They use those expertise for their own gain. That's what got Europe. That's how enriched Europe and enriched America. That they took all those minerals from there. So Liberia was struggling. They've been struggling just to survive. They were given loans, draconian loans that was ridiculous. One of the loans we ended up getting maybe 5 or 10% of the entire loan after they extracted all they wanted from it. So we haven't been managing our resources in general very well.
Right, but Jimmy, I don't, it's true. I want to see that, but if we say because the people are not educated and so they are making poor decisions when it comes to governance.
Yeah, but let me come to that.
Okay.
So they were not providing education. And education is a general word. There's formal education, right, and there's informal education. You don't necessarily have to go to school to learn how to be a farmer. You can be taught. Through apprenticeship. There are other kinds of education that you can gain to make a living, not necessarily to go to a higher institution of learning. There are other things you can do to increase your livelihood. But there were those in governance at that time that did not think that was the most important thing to do. And we lacked given education. So today, we suffer for that because when we're making our decisions, it requires critical thinking. And to be a critical thinker, you have to be exposed. And so I tend to agree with the caller that our lacking of education is why we make the decisions we do. However, I would just tell him, yes, there was some selfishness. I know my father once told me this horrific story there was one group of class that she had graduated from the University of Liberia in the 50s, and they were held back because they had nobody with a European name in that class. Those were horrific things that we have seen happen, and we've seen changes since then. But the matter of fact that we have not gotten education to our people and exposure is it contributes largely to our poverty and our decision making.
But Jimmy, I want to really disagree with that premise, because I was born, and raised in a village. Because what that tells me is the better educated you are, the better you are in not being corrupt or managing the state or observing the rule of law. Because when I'm in my village, the corruption that I see in the city is not there. You can leave your door open and go somewhere. All right. The sycophancy that we see, there is rule of law in the villages. We also see that there is a respect for constitutional authority. We see that there is chain of command that is followed. People are not greedy and treating the national covers as eat all you can get buffet.
You are right, John. That there's a moral. That's why I say education is not just going to school. There is a moral code that you impart, and we did it in our villages when we were back in the day. There was integrity, there was honor. We have seen that even though these people have been to school, they don't have integrity. They don't have honor. They are not honest.
They are not.
Okay, so just knowing science, knowing how to read and write did not ensure that they were people of good moral character.
Right.
Okay.
And besides that, even the person in a village is not stupid to know that to vote for this person or that person, right?
Yes.
If you went in the village, I was a little boy in the village when people used to come there to talk. The people ask questions and they are still able to determine who is in their favor. We were in a place where you have to walk for days to get to where the car row is to get in the car, right? But we're paying taxes. Everything we use on the house came from the bush. No nail, no concrete, no zinc. We have taxes, but yet we're paying taxes. So the people were not happy with that. So if you came to run, for any elected officials, those are the things that they demand. So are we not educated enough to demand those things, or we have to graduate from college before we know that, okay, this man is not in our interest? I don't buy that. If we are not voting for the right people, I think we should blame ourselves. Then saying, well, you didn't give me the education, that's why I'm not voting right.
I agree with you when it comes to who you vote for is up to you. But here is the thing. The first time they introduced the democratic process to the interior, do you know that there were many chiefs did not like the idea? You see, in our African culture, you had to be, before you become a chief, you had to be from a certain clan, because they would groom you to become a chief. They didn't like the fact that anybody could be elected. You come from anywhere, any clan, and they didn't like the idea. They thought it eroded the integrity of the clan by having just anybody, just because you're elected, then you become, no, you have to be of a certain character before you should rule. And they believe in that till today. Okay? So with that is what...
If I may.
Okay, come in.
Yeah, if I may. So here's the narrative here, right? I hear about people saying, since the genesis or since the beginning of Liberia, we have had leadership problems. But, in as much as we have more bad leaders, we have very few. And I want to mention one tonight, and you can do your research. William Albert Hubbard during his regime in Liberia, Liberia gained access to resources where the Liberian citizens were benefiting from the resources that were being extracted from Liberia, like bone mines, like lamb coal. Those two companies in Liberia built access to the higher esteem and the educational system they had in those areas. People went to Kara High, Last High, even the vocational training school, VTC, the Bible College, African Bible College. Those schools, people that graduated from those schools today are productive citizens of Liberia and in the diaspora.
And how is that attributable to President Topper? What did he do about that?
So during Topper time, it was when the concession that was signed, those companies needed to build not just food or hospitals, but housing for the employees. Lamco had 2,600 employees and it had 2,200 housing units. And every housing unit has running water, 24/7 electricity. Whether you live in the Liberia section or in the South area, you have access to 24/7 electricity, access to running pipe water in your house. Now, and they have station, they have level, staff member, middle class member, and lower guys. But each one of them have access to the basic necessities to life. They have access to free health care. Okay? They have access to a busing system, meaning your children can go on the school bus, or you yourself as an employee get on the regular bus and go to work back and forth. Those days, we have street telephone in the street. You pick up the phone and dial your father's last 4 digits of his back number. You have access to call outside of the police. And if you call outside of Yekepa, they bill your dad. That was during Topper time.
Yeah, I mean, people.
And I was going to Yekepa for 27 years.
Go ahead. So
to buffer you,
I'm mentioning these things that good things can be done in Liberia.
Right.
Once we have the rightful leader who understands that. Now, before I take myself, before I yield back my time, let me mention this. INO, you will hear this current government, INO price gone down, INO price gone down. But what they're not telling the Liberian people, there is a royalty on the INO construction in Liberia. Meaning, if the INO price in that market index price goes up today, $100, $150 per metric ton, Liberia still will not benefit because Liberia signed a deal that whether it goes up or down, Liberia have a flat rate, flat royalty on our INO. They're not telling the Liberian public that one. Okay? The last time I checked, INO before George Weah took office, it was $64 to $65 per metric ton. 3 months ago, INO price spiked up to $106, $108 United States dollars per metric ton. Liberia did not benefit from it because of the royalty on INO.
Thank you. So, and we're going to bring in another caller soon. But James, let's still talk about the historicity of this whole thing, because let's say for a long period of time, because government was managed by few people that are privileged and their cronies, their relatives. So the vast majority of the population look at government as the people thing. As a result, active participation in government was not encouraged. In fact, it was during the presidency of Mr. Tubman that voting right was extended to indigenous Liberians. They were like green card holders. They were citizens, but they couldn't vote until later.
I think it was in early 1920s when it was extended, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
What, 1934, something like that?
45, around 45. Because when President Tubman came to power, he did not have the support of the True Whig Party. So he had to do something to get votes. So he granted citizenship or that voting right to the indigenous, so that that's why the people, including those in my village, are so loyal to him. But so if you look at that history, so always, that's why if you go in the interior, the people always vote for the incumbent, because presidency was thought to be, you know, we're not good enough to be part of this thing. Okay, whatever they come here and do for us is like favor.
Right.
That same thing.
Again,
So how
yeah.
is it that we are able to even talk about, you know, holding our leaders accountable, talking about impeachment, talking about recall election, if there's any like that in Liberia, if the vast majority of the people look at it as people think historically?
Right. Historically, it's known that there was a pseudo elite system in Liberia, that only certain people or certain groups were allowed to be in leadership. When the freed slaves came here, a lot of them were of mixed heritage, European heritage, and they considered themselves better because that's what they were taught. Their masters taught them that because they were lighter skinned, they were better. Anything that is closer to being white is better than being black. So they brought that mentality with them and exacted that mentality on the African brethren here, that they felt they were better. There was a revolt against that, and in the body of E.J. Roy, they wanted to change that mindset, that only certain light-skinned people should be in rule. And after that, they sort of changed the code a little bit to say that, okay, those who are exposed, those who came from the different places, the West Indies, the Americas, they are the ones that we will consider part of the ruling elite class. Again, leaving out the vast majority of the Liberian people who were not from all these places. So that was that elitism type of governance they were carrying out in Liberia. The two main things were wrong with that, Jai. Let's go back to the education. If you're going to tax me, I'm supposed to benefit from my taxes. If I don't have hospitals, if I don't have roads, if I don't have schools, how am I benefiting from my taxes? All right. Again, I'm saying that those at that time did not know how to extract wealth from the resources they had, and they only knew they depended on things that they learned from the masters, and they never really learned to create wealth, or they didn't show that. But to mention this guy's point, education was number one for one of the number one things for Toba. Toba had two different agendas: agriculture and education. Those were the two priorities he took. And I can tell you, during the days when I was going to LU, you could get a scholarship. Anybody could get. Once you got in LU, you could almost go for free. That's how good it was. If you did agriculture, they would pay you. They give you a stipend, and you go to school free. Your dorm is free. Your books free, because that's just what he placed emphasis on. So yes, education picked up during his administration. Okay, but there were other things that were going on that he still had that baggage of that ruling class. Okay, and it is that baggage that led to his eventual fall, because it is not fair. It's never been fair that you tax people and they don't have the same representation that you have. They don't have the same participation you have. They don't have the same access that you have. Okay, and that it has always been the problem. But today, it's a different day. Okay, today that is not the case. So, how do we elect our leaders?
Exactly, and Jimmy, that's the thing I was coming to, because we go into history and have this, that this person did, and you're talking about 100 years, and you are still lying down in the same place complaining of something. Although I believe that vestiges of the past can stay with us for a long time, But when are we going to dust off and say we're taking the bull by the horn? Let me read a few comments here before I continue. Randall Neo Gay say bad and wicked and evil vampires opposition make our governance system bad. Randall, please elaborate how the opposition make the governance bad. Mansfield Drupo say Dennis, good night. Topic, hope I'll be guest in the not too distant future. We are here, Mansfield, anytime. George Kerry is replying, say countries are not developed by individual citizens. It is done by government. So don't blame our people that were working with Lamco and other companies back in the days. I have someone who's been trying to call, send me, her comments. But before we get to our comments, let me take, okay, this person gone off. Mrs. Welle Momba is writing, is it the government is to be blamed largely for its incompetence to steer the affairs of the state. Leadership isn't for bluff. You must continuously keep your brain busy, thinking of solutions. You must be alert at all times to take in good advice and follow through. Liberia's problems are enormous, and anyone vying for the presidency must be prepared to do the job, not learning on the job or being in that position only for the morale or the money. The laws must be implemented. If you kill, the law will kill you, an example. We need a deterrent here. High government must educate, or high crimes require harsh laws and enforcement. Government must educate its citizens to make better judgment. The citizens are partly responsible for settling for less. A bag of rice or other material possession should not make you make a decision of a life. Stop voting for unqualified individuals because they are your family members or friends. Tune down the tribal rhetorics. That from Welle Momba. Your take, Jimmy.
She said a lot. Everything she's saying, yes, you want those kind of people. But here it is, you have a democratic process. And democracy has, for a large part, is a popularity contest. Unless you have somebody vet the candidates prior to coming to elections, there's no other way you can because it's one man, one vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so how will you control who gets there? You can't control that unless you have a process that candidates have to be vetted before you can even be go put your name on the ballot. You see, and that's the thing with the democratic process. If it's open to everybody without prior vetting, then anybody can run. And what are the guarantees if the person is educated? Like you said, there are people who have been claimed to have been educated, but we have found that their integrity was lacking.
Yep.
That they didn't take punitive actions against those who were related to them. We've seen this happen. There's always been a morality moral element of this thing. How can you teach morality? How can you guarantee that the next president who you elect will be morally sound? What are the guarantees? The only guarantees you have, other than say you would vet the person and all of that before, is if the person is not functioning or the body is not functioning, you have a check and balance. Now, if the check and balances are failing, then you SOL. So to make this thing work, my people, no matter who you elect, the check and balances have to be working and in place so that when somebody's slipping, you can correct them. But when the check and balance is not working, no matter who you elect, there will be issues because there's no check and balance.
Yeah, exactly. And let me bring in a caller, and I want to talk about the role the citizen play. There's an article I wrote on a blog years ago called "Booing Our Bums." In basketball, those guys who don't play well, they call them bums. He's a bum. Yeah. So they say booing our bums. So if we don't boo our bums, how we expect them to know that they are wrong? And that's where the citizens, like for instance, especially during the administration of President Sirleaf, there was a lot of cry against the legislature, right? Both houses. I mean, some call them do nothing, and there was all lot of things. But when one of those lawmakers comes to America, and because they are closer to us, or because they talk to us first, we will be the one organizing town hall for them. We are the one piling around with them. Or if they come from our district, then they are our friends. So we only look at the legislature as a whole, but one-on-one, we are not doing our homes. We are not holding them accountable because they're closer to us. Maybe because they got big money, so when they come, we're going to benefit from whatever they bring. So because of that, we're okay with it, unless it's the other guy. But if it's our guy, like PLO Lumumba said, we claim the thieves. Oh, this thief is our thief. This thief is from our ethnic group. So even though this punishment is supposed to be for thief, but because he's my friend, so I owe him. There was a time when Senator Mayton TJ was accused of by the LACC. And so I wrote he's from Sino, I'm from Sino County. So I wrote something against him. And one of the elders in the society called me and said, that TJ one, you see, all the money they've been stealing, like your own Sino brother you see to talk about. So yeah, to what extent are we holding our elected people accountable? Is it because we're not educated? I don't think so. But let me bring in one caller before I let you chime in. Caller from 770, your name and where you calling from?
This is Welly Mamba from Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, Welly, welcome to Focus on Liberia. I was reading your long something, but go ahead and your input.
Yeah, thank you. I was not sure whether you were going to see that, so I decided to call.
Thank you. Go ahead. Who you think is responsible?
So, yeah, basically, I will hold the government responsible. I understand that free slaves came to Liberia, never educated our people, and here we are. Well, you count the number of generations that have passed by since those free slaves came to Liberia. And we're still laying in the ashes trying to feel sorry for ourselves and trying to shift blame up to this time. That is ridiculous. Now, the free slaves came, they did what they could do. They had their own experiences in the United States and went back with the same mentality. We agree. But then, like somebody said, Tarver came by. In the midst of that, somebody was there. Somebody came by that started something good. I know we're growing up. And there were these seeds, rice that they used to give to our people to plant and make more food. So they were teaching them how to be self-sufficient when it comes to food. And that really helped because every time they made farms, they take the same bag of rice back and the rest of the food is for them. So then we had another leader that came in, Joe. He was an indigenous. And he did what he could do. So people that were educated by Tarver that went back should have started to educate their people. Then when they had if you want to play the tribal card, then when we had though as our own person, son of the soil, as people said, how did we come together to develop our people? You spent more than 1 decade, or you spent a decade in that position. How did we come together to develop people that we say were not developed by the free slaves? We did nothing. Now, after him, other people came back. Even though we had a long civil war that spoiled the rest of the generation, and these are people today that are supposed to be voting and making decisions, most of them, for the country. So the problem has been government, because if the government did not put in more effort from the beginning to educate the people, even the young generation that are making most of these decisions,
exactly.
if people have put in more effort to educate them, they would have been making better decisions. Because if they are educated, they go back in the country and tell the people what is right.
Mrs. Mamba, how much education do you need to know that you have not taken pay or your parents have not taken pay for 3 months? How much education do you need to know that you don't have a car road, so you are walking from Lubricant to Petnerville? So if you cannot look at your offering and make a sound decision, how much education do you need to do that?
Okay, well, those are simple things. See the road, see whatever. Those are simple things. But the effect that will come about, that's what I'm speaking of. So, for example, if you have your people, you know you don't have a road, but then tomorrow somebody will bring a machine and say they're going to build road for you if you vote for them. But these are temporary stuff. So if they understand that if there's more education for people to understand that whatever people offer them during the elections, those are temporary. They are not, meant to be sustained because they only want the vote, and after a few months, those roads will be closed. That's the kind of education they need to far-sighted. That's what they need, as opposed to the instant gratification they will get because, somebody wants them to do something. So it goes beyond what somebody offer right now, but what they're going to offer tomorrow, will it be sustained? That's what I'm speaking of.
Thank you. Mrs. Mova,
so that's why.
Dennis, allow me to. I think your point you're making is very significant. But one thing we can borrow from our surroundings. A lot of countries in Africa have problems with corruption, and the central problem has always been greed and selfishness. So what we also have to deal with is a problem of human nature, which is greed. So when the people now, when you said the government is responsible, who makes up the government? It's the same Liberian people. They're not aliens. They're not coming from a different country. They're not coming from Europe. They are the same Liberian people. So it's not like you're talking about, you could be talking about your own brother or sister that's there. So that government is us. It's us. That government
the government is us, but who is the authority?
Yeah, but
who has the power?
Yeah, here's what we need to look at. Why, when those who have, what is their problem that they don't do well? It is greed. Do all of us have greed? Elements of greed and selfishness? Is it in our nature? That has been the problem. Is there greed? They want to live in
Well, you see, that's what I said in my writing. Okay, people, everybody has something like greed within them. Well, there should be something to curtail that. And then when the laws in Liberia are not working.
Check and balance, exactly. If you don't have the laws working, you can't check that human. You see,
it's not working.
You see, look at us in America here. We go around in Liberia, we can drink any kind of way to drive a drink. You wouldn't do it here because there's a system that will check you, and if you are caught, you will spend a lot of money and time in jail.
Yeah.
Our check and balance system is what's not working for us. If we're the same human being,
it's not working in Liberia.
It's not working.
And you know very well. And you also know that people that in Liberia, some of them live here. They abide by the laws in the United States. For example, they're over there raping little babies that can be their grandkids. Some of them leave from the United States and go marrying that can be their great-grandkids. But they cannot do it here because the laws over here, they're not joking. If they tell you that you're going to spend 50 years in jail, they mean it. You're not going to cut corner and go in there and say, well, you're going to bribe the police or you're going to bribe the judge.
Okay.
So because the laws are working, things are in place.
Okay, so that goes back to your point that says that the government is responsible, right?
Yes, that one makes me to think that the government is responsible because
Well,
they
let's
allow corruption to flourish and think that we can't do anything. That where corruption is systemic. That's not true.
right.
The laws are not there to punish the people. They need harsh laws.
So let's look at the value judgment of the society. What is it? What are the things that we cherish in the society? What are the things that we reward? Do we, as a people, forget, the government is there, but do we as a people reward honesty? Do we reward hard work? Or do we worship and bow down to corruption so that we can get a part of it? So where do we place our value judgment? What is it that we hold dear?
What the problem with our country is we reward bad behavior. And so people think bad behavior is a way of life. People that have committed a lot of crimes are worshipped in Liberia.
Yeah.
So other people growing up will think that, well, if I stole some money and then people, look at me like, well, he has money, they can vote me to any office. Or I will have the respect that I need. Or if I kill somebody, yes, then I become popular. And they don't think that those things got consequences because people in the country that in authority, they don't punish the crimes. So we look at criminals to be people to emulate. We look at them as people that we can learn from. And that's the problem our country is facing. It takes a leader to stand up in our country and straighten it up. They need to be scrubbed and get white for our country to be strong. And that leader, I'm praying one day that leader will surface.
Thank you. And Jimmy, let me bring another side of what we see here on a daily basis, right? Still on the question of our value judgment, what is it that we are taking seriously? Look on social media. What are some of the shows that attract the vast number of people? Yeah. Drama, number one. What are some of the things that draw us? Yeah. If you see, if me and myself were insulting each other right now, the whole place will be full.
Yeah.
So,
anything that has the insult.
Right. So again, we the citizens, we the regular people, what is it?
No. The citizens are not responsible because the government not telling the citizens that these things are wrong. They're not punishing them. They're not punishing bad behavior. So people see bad behavior and think it is a way of life. There are no rules and regulations that they follow. There's no morality. Everybody does what they want to do. So people go on the internet and insult other people, castigate them, and they go free.
Yeah, but if those people are insulting other people, who are the people that give them the highest support? The people. Because I watched one guy who, when he's insulting women, most of the people that watch him are women. And you're talking about up to maybe 1,000 people. And we get to the point of being numb to some of these things. We don't regard them as insults anymore. When was it okay in Liberia for a guy to stand in the street and use the language or cause what we call woman curse? Even under the most gruesome condition, those things were forbidden, and people around you are going to chastise you for that. But this time now, these people are celebrated. And who celebrate them? The people.
Yeah, they are heroes. They call them the heroes.
Yeah.
I went on the internet one day, I watched one show, and the first 2 minutes I said that when the profanity started coming up against a lady, I shut it down. Yeah. Because, you have to have some kind of moral standard.
Thank you.
I was talking to some ladies, you are right. And they say, well, the person is this, the person is that. And they try to defend that. And I'm like, really? So we have lost our own values. Even as women, that would be cherishing people that are insulting us.
Yes, value. That's where it boils down to, Ms. Mova. You hit it. What are our values? Are we going to hail people who have stolen millions of dollars and then now they're bluffing, or people who insult people
Yes.
Our values, the government ain't got to tell you what your values are. They can expose you. They can tell you, say, you know, to do wrong. The Bible is there. The Quran is there to teach you right and wrong. But people still do what they want to do. They gravitate toward what they want to gravitate toward. What are our values? And is that what will determine your attitude? Your value determines your attitudes and your behavior, and that determines your character. So unless we now start cultivating different values that will manifest itself in different type of behavior, that is when you will see a change. But it's our own values.
But do you know that?
Hold on, Mrs.
Do you know that most? Okay, go ahead.
Let me read some comments from Facebook. And some of the things are not related to the topic, but Anthony Gay said, why 99% of who were at the march today are seditions or CDC sympathizers? Mr. Gay, if you can, please contribute to tonight's debate. Who is responsible for all the misrule? Is it the people or the government? Another comment from Randall Gay. From day one till now, we have not seen any of the past government officials in jail with all the corruption songs being singing in Liberia. So who come to power will do the same thing, is what I meant. Judge Kelly said Social Security taxes were collected back in the days, but we were still renting government ministry from government officials. Okay, again, Randall Gay said Ellen was educated, but she won the corruption trophy by being a corrupt president in the corruption. Judge Kerry, in Liberia, the president gets absolute control over everything. The president determines the working of the legislature and the judiciary. Maxwell Lobo said, Liberians, we are not serious. And I don't like generalization, Mr. Lobo. When you say Liberians are not serious, I don't believe it because I'm Liberian and I'm serious and I believe you are serious too. He said, we don't do our homework before selecting who to lead us. The blind is just leading the blind. We need to get serious, set a serious example for corruption. President of past present government, we should stop making the same mistakes. Baton Kula says, Liberia's problem is our philosophy and way of life. Big men can't lie. Our leaders don't follow the laws. We are a loose society. Armstrong Java saying the people are responsible is like saying the children in the home are responsible for disorder. That's wrong. Mrs. Mumba, you can continue with your point.
Okay, so basically, people look at examples. So people take learn from different people. You learn from people in your community. People in the community learn from the leadership. But if the leadership is corrupt, if we are dancing and clapping for criminals, people that have killed, then the rest of the people that are growing up that are supposed to be looking at us as example, they tend to do the same thing. And this is why our society is polluted at this point. Liberia can be changed as the rest of the countries that are doing better today, even like America. America, we got corruption, but if they find you, you're gonna go to jail, no matter who you are. But in Liberia, certain people are excluded. If you are in that position and somebody close to you commit a crime, they're gonna find a way to bury everything, and then nobody gets punished. If somebody is of your tribe, you're gonna support them even if they are wrong or right. People cannot stand up for the truth. That's what I observed. And when you point out the truth, they think that, everybody is surprised that you would be so bold. But if you don't say the truth, people that are doing the wrong thing will continue to do it. How do we make a change? If you try to effect a change, you are afraid to say what is wrong. And that's what our people are continue to go through. And so if the government not setting right example, if we have people intoxicated in the streets, We sit down in the street on Broad Street and drink beer there and act disorderly. How do we teach the kids that are growing up?
Thank you.
If we have a leader that is drunk 24 hours, how do the rest of the cabinet members learn from what is good? And so the rest of the community will continue to live in that condition. And we Liberian people, most of us, I'm not going to generalize, but most of the people, they are different. Somebody says God created the Africans, then God created a Liberian man.
No.
To say that Liberian people are different, they act different. But we need to learn to do what is better. We need to do better. We need to be honest. But there's a lot of dishonesty. So right now, I know somebody, because I know John Brown and they are wrong, I'm not going to say anything. I close my mouth because that's my best friend.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose the friendship. But then if it is power, because I couldn't speak out when it was my best friend, when it comes to another person, even if I spoke out, nobody's going to take me seriously. And that's why everything gets died down back home.
Thank you, Mrs. Mother. Yeah. So let me. The last caller, 346. I will bring you in. Let me hear from Jimmy. Then I'll bring you in for the last time. Jimmy.
Yes. All her points are very salient, and we have. I think we have analyzed to the point now that we know there's something wrong with our values. Our values do not support honesty and integrity. It celebrates ill-gotten wealth, and it celebrates things that we used to frown upon, like vulgarity and taking advantage of the underprivileged or the innocent. That's what we value today. We have to examine ourselves and admit to ourselves that our personalities, our values are corrupt. So we are corrupt. If you have corrupted values, then of course your society will be corrupt because your values determine how you interact and behave. So unless we admit this to ourselves and say this is something we want to change, and that is the responsibility of every Liberian, not just the one. Well, once we make it all our responsibility, then when who person we elect, and the people who are in different positions, we can hold them all to the same standard. That's how things would start changing. But first of all, we gotta put it out there. We gotta say we do not honor things that are respectable. We like to be as deplorable as the time will allow us to. We have to change ourselves before we can change the society.
Right. And
that's where it starts.
And this is a responsibility for all of us. Or Darlington Blayon on Facebook says, Liberia's problem is our weak justice system, period. Well, we say weak justice system, but what role do we play? That's our responsibility. Let me hear from this caller for the last time, or 346, you've been on the call. So your final comment, 346.
Yeah, I'm right here, and thanks for bringing me back on. Like I said earlier, I'm Kesely Baba calling from Texas.
Oh, yeah. Kesely, go ahead, make your last point.
Yeah, earlier I said I had two things to discuss on, and then after discussing on one, and then I've been on the line ever so long. But my second thing I had to talk on was what the host, your guest was speaking about the protest. And then later on, he himself also even answered my question. Answer the point I had when he said it's the right of the people to take their people who they put in power and take the power back from them. He himself admitted to that. But then he's now saying that he's against the protest in Liberia. And I don't know the reason why people will be complaining about protesting in Liberia, to be bringing war when We had a June 7th protest. You and I saw the June 7th protest, how peaceful it was. Okay? So while the same people who talk about June 7th protest, are talking about protest for December, they have constitutional rights, and then we as Liberians keep talking about war. I don't know where the war syndrome is coming from. We have protests for the past 12 years when Malasali was in power and there was no war. Why would this, this December 30th protest bring war? I keep asking the question and no one can actually answer my question. I've had a question on so many podcasts and nobody can answer my question.
All right. I think that's a legitimate question, and let me tell you why I'm concerned. If this was a protest to say, look, we have seen this and this and this wrong, and we want it to be addressed, everybody would say yes, that is something. But when you say you want the president should step down, the process we agreed to remove is an impeachment or a ballot box. If you are not using that process to change the administration, then you are subverting the system you wanted. That is the reason why people are afraid of something happening, because there are people who support the administration and they feel they were legitimately elected. Now you say we must forget about the legitimacy of the election and simply get in the street until the government resigns. That is not the process. That is not the process we agreed to. That process where we create a chaos has led to a war before. And so when we hear about somebody coming subvert the whole process again, we say, wait, we don't want to go back to no more war. And that is the reason. But if you just say, okay, these things you protested about before, what have you said about it? Okay, we noticed that this thing is going on. We want you to change it. Okay, we know that this money got lost. We still don't have an accountability. Okay, but to say you come and subvert the democratic process that will ensure peace, we can't do that, and that would make everybody afraid.
That's the part that differ with you on when you say subversion, because our constitution is plain on how presidents can be removed from power.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Right? Article 64 is plain. Yes. President can be removed from power by impeachment, by resignation, by how you call it,
election,
impeachment, resignation, and election.
Yes.
Those are processes. Okay. We are not, refusing for the president not to be in power. We employ the president. I want you to agree that we employ him, right? We are his employer. And if we give this president a piece of job to do for us, and he's not doing our job right, and we tell him to resign, what makes that a piece of crime according to Article 64?
No,
we are asking him to resign. And the Constitution shows us that we can, the president can leave power by resignation according to Article 64.
Okay.
The president can be moved from power by resignation.
Okay.
It's right before we read Article 64.
Right.
So Jimmy, can I come in?
Hold on, Jimmy.
And we are not subverting. We are asking the president to resign.
Okay,
we are not carrying arms. We are not carrying guns. We are saying that we are going to peacefully assemble and ask our president to resign because he's not setting us right. So what is the subversion aspect in this whole thing? I want you to welcome the subversion aspect in this thing. We are not carrying arms. We are not carrying any war. So what was the war coming from then? What's your fear?
Okay, Jimmy. Not Jimmy.
Mr. Josh.
Yes, sir.
Hold on, Mrs. Moba. Kesali, what's supposed to be the process to ask the president to resign? And what is the threshold? What is the threshold of the things that the president?
When the people feel that their security is not being adhered to by a government.
When you say the people, how many should they be, and what should
when we feel our security is being threatened?
Yeah, I know. I
right?
said when you say
it is our right.
I come in. I get that. So what should be the?
We as Liberians.
What is the litmus test? And what is the threshold of the things that the president should do before we get in the street? And who make up that we? What should be the percentage?
Oh. The constitution doesn't give a percentage. The constitution of the people.
That's fair.
It can be
Alice,
1%. It can be 2%. We are all equal.
okay.
We are all equal. We are all equal under the constitution. Equally equal.
I get it, Alice.
It did not say. It did not say that you are greater than me or I'm greater than you. It said we are all equal.
That's fair. I got your point. You are right. Let's go, Mrs. Moba. On you wanted to say something.
Yeah, you know, first of all, I am not engaged with any planning of protest, but this is my view on the protest. I think people are thinking way ahead of themselves. First of all, when we had a war in Liberia, it did not come through protest. All the problems we've been having in Liberia, one after another, Chancellor War, the coup of 1980, that nothing came through protest.
Absolutely.
The mean things that happened that killed leaders did not come through any protest. On those very days that they killed the people. You had June 7, where mass of Liberians got in the streets and protest. What are the things that they protested for, whether they were met, I have no idea. But I do know that the money they were asking for is nowhere in sight as we speak. So if the same Liberians say, because, you know, it's just so simple. Okay, you give me a piece of work to do. You tell me do research, I give you 5 days, do it. And if I can't do my job, you have the right to tell me, Mrs. Bomba, if you can't do your job, put life in legal. What is the big deal? Why are we crying war? Mm-hmm. So unless you want to tell me the people that are telling if you can't do your job, you got to relinquish it, maybe those are the people that are planning the war.
So, Mrs. Moba.
Because if you say subvert, hold on 1 second. If you say subvert, people that are going to do protests, they're not going with guns. Mm-hmm. They're not going to get in the street with guns. You know, you cannot remove somebody. You cannot subvert a government by mouth. You have to use something that will show that the government is threatening. But if you march in the street with your empty arm and telling the president, if you cannot do your job, please leave it. What is the big deal about it?
Okay, let me say something before you conclude. What if you say you're going to stay in the street? What if you say you're going to stay in the street until the president resigns? Would that amount to some form of subversion?
Well, if you stay in the street, if you say you're going to stay in the street until the president resigns, it doesn't touch anything still. You're not carrying any hand on the president, or you're telling the president, do your job. If a cup of rice is $70, that means before the date of the protest, try to find a way and see who can bring more food in the country.
All right.
Some of the things that they want you to do them. What happened to the money that got missing? You said go to Liberia to investigate. What is the outcome? What are we getting the money back?
Thank you.
So those things that the people wanted when they had the first protest begin to work on them so that we will have a peaceful country. But if you ignore everything, and then people say, okay, well, it seems that the government is there to protect the people. You can't have a hungry population and think you're going to have peace.
Thank you.
You can't have a population where there's no gas in the town and you say you're going to have peace. When the roads are all bad, then you say you have a government. These people have the right to say, Mr. President, you came to power on promise that you're going to do A, Y, Z. Right. If you cannot do that, then give it to somebody. Because it was a competition. And then people felt like you would have done a better job. So if you can't do your better job, then you need to leave it. What is that subverting government?
Thank you. So Jimmy, I don't want us to leave our topic and we'll be concluding in the next 5 minutes. So Jimmy, if you sign a promissory note of protecting lives and property, improving the lives of the people, and the people find that you are not doing it, isn't it their right to say, well, you broke the promise? You know, even the girl you want, man, you promised the girl lapa when you start loving, you're not giving the lapa, you should say, man, I don't think you're serious. What's wrong?
You know, the point being made here. Yes, you can have your opinion that somebody is not doing a job. But we believe in majority rules. Now, if let's say 10,000 people get up and say, "Oh, you're not doing your job," but a 90 or 40,000 people say, "No, he's doing a good. Give him a chance. He's doing a good job." What is going to happen now? When one people say they man this, you leave the man. Other people say he moved. What's going to happen? That is why you need a process.
Jimmy, that's the democracy. If 10 people say resign and another 10 or 20 people say don't resign, then you sit down, right? So what's the big deal about this being war?
Right. So, but the thing is, there's a process. There's a no confidence. If you say, okay, the things they have done right now, then we have no confidence in you. Let them go to vote. There's no confidence in this government, then they resign.
But Jimmy,
there's a process.
Still, there's no crime in saying it.
No crime in saying it.
As long as they are peaceful, as they are peaceful in the street, they are not obstructing. Because if you are blocking traffic and say nobody passing until the president resigns, the police have the right to restore law and order. Right. But if they are peaceful, they stay on the sidewalk or they say, the president should calm down. Why people, in fact, there are some people say, oh, because of 79, there was war. No, that's not true. The coup of 1980 did not happen because there was 79 rights riot. Taylor War did not happen. In fact, some people miss it. They said they were calling for Monkey to calm down. No, Monkey to calm down protest was done during the war. At the time, the rebels have taken part of Nimba County, and they were closing in. That's the time they had the Monkey calm down protest. So to really say that anytime there is protest, then war is imminent, I think that's a fallacy.
I agree with you.
Yeah, the concern could be legitimate, but we are pushing this too far. But let me take my last column. The big question tonight we're trying to answer is, with all this yobo, who's responsible, the government or the people? My last column, and please be brief. Your number is 602. Your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Phoenix Scott. I'm calling from Arizona.
Your name is what?
My name is Phoenix. I'm calling from Arizona.
Philip or Stephen from Arizona. Your question or comment?
Well, I just joined the conversation, but I've been hearing so far as to who has called for war and why people are afraid of war coming to Liberia, and how peaceful protests and people exercising their democracy rights, what have they had to do with war? But what I want to say is, I think we are missing the point here.
Okay, what's the point?
The point here is it's not about people calling for protest. You see, we have a saying, it's not what you say that matters. It's how you say it.
Okay.
So when we have leaders who people depend on, who people look up to, who people believe and think that they are in their right mind to make decisions for them, when those leaders are making comments that are in a certain manner that is not healthy for those who think for themselves, then those who think for themselves must think very carefully as to whether to accept those comments or to reject them. So when the Henry Pedro Costa, who is the head of the Council of Patriots, making a call and saying that we will go in the street to demonstrate, we will go there, we will drag President, we are like a market dog. I want every educated Liberian who is listening to quote a single provision in the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia that calls for, when the people are not satisfied, they should drag their president like a market dog. That comment and that statement that is coming from a leader that everybody so far, all of his followers, believe in so much. When he said that because the people's constitutional right is to protest, therefore they will go in the street, the stores will loot, and there will be casualties. And in fact, things like that happen. That is the only time I am quoting him. I might be paraphrasing him. And then we will go to the table and say, Judge, when are you leaving? So I want anybody to tell me, after Zoko loots Liberia, after the president is dragged like a market dog, and then we go to the table, what part of the Liberian Constitution says this is how it's supposed to be done?
No, it's nowhere there.
Any educated person that is listening to tell me.
No, it's not there. I'm educated, and I'm telling you, it's not there. To say the drag like market,
so when it's not there,
is he just making big mouth and empty threat, or he really have the capacity to do so?
Who can say that?
How do we know what is a big? How do we know what is a big?
I'm just asking the question. I don't know myself.
When a person sits in Delaware and gave an order, and people marched to the Capitol Hospital and did what they did, how do we then distinguish between what is a big mouth and what is an empty threat when that same person is making similar comments? Do we not know that that person has power and he has people that follow him that will take every command from him?
Thank you.
So when do we exercise our constitutional right to resist comments that are not in the interest of the people? Do we wait until chaos happens before we know it is not a bluff, it's just empty mouth? No. This is where we say it has the propensity of breaking war in the country. We are not saying that any protest in war will come, or the people who want to protest a war. But when you say you would drag a sitting president like a market dog, there is no constitution on the planet that says it is the right of the people to do so.
Yeah. Mariah Seaton on Facebook said drag is not literal. But thank you for your point. Is well taken. We are about to draw down the curtains. So I will ask I will first ask on the topic tonight, Mrs. Moba, you're still there? If you have your just 30 seconds for your
I'm still here.
Okay, let me start with Keseli.
Okay, so
no, hold on. Let me start with Keseli. He was the first caller. So Keseli, double your last point on our topic tonight for 30 seconds.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. John.
Thank you.
What I would advise our brothers, especially for some of us who are in the West, is that we shouldn't be enjoying democracy and be contradicting ourselves and allow our other people who want to enjoy the democracy back home to suffer. You go in front of the White House today and carry placards that you don't want war in Liberia. But then when the other people are trying to protest peacefully in Liberia, you say you are against them. That's a complete contradiction. So let's start fooling ourselves. The same democracy we are enjoying here, let's allow our people to enjoy it back home so that when we go home tomorrow, the place can be peaceful and be better for everyone else to live. Thank you very much, Mr. Dan, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Alice?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to say that Henry Costa has his own freedom of speech. He can say what he wants to say. What he does is what he's responsible for. I went downtown one time in Atlanta and I saw placards in 2003. People wrote on the placard, in fact, not placards, but verbally saying that they wish terrorists could come and take the president, and nobody did anything to them. So people have the right to say what they say, but they are responsible for what they do physically. So I don't see the protest to bring war to Liberia.
Thank you so much for your time. Philip, your last comment. Let's talk about the big question tonight for all the misrule and the mismanagement and the Liberia. Who was responsible? The people or the government? Philip, 30 seconds.
I would say that the Liberian people are responsible for what is happening. And they are responsible, the part of it is that when you are speaking or selecting a leader, you got to know who you are choosing. And it's sad that our people are not educated when it comes to voting. So we continually make mistakes by repeating the same people over and over again. And that's the reason why we are going through what we are going through, because our people are not educated. So we who are on this side that understand what it is to vote and elect a rightful leader, we should educate our people that when these politicians come to them and make empty promises, they should listen and not just run into casting ballots and voting for someone because their uncle voted for that person. Because tomorrow we will have this discussion again. So we got to be careful who we vote for, and we need to listen to these politicians when they lie. We need to know what is a lie and what is true. But before we know what is true, we must first see a politician did something for us in our community, so that when he says he's going to do it for us, when we put him in the office, we can believe him. But just because he has a master's degree does not mean that he's going to do it. That's how we are going through this today, because they lie with degrees and they don't do nothing, and they are then selfish, and we mistakenly put them there.
Thank you for your comment. Otis T1Lie on Facebook said the three branches of government are responsible. In other words, the government is responsible. The poor people of Liberia want change. They are easily convinced by what the politician told them during the time of elections. Some of them don't even know who's the rightful person to vote for. Batum Kula said there is nothing subversive about asking someone to resign. They did it in secret and had armed, plotting to do it at night, then you have a point. So, and then Thomas Lewin, Anita Thomas Lewin say, it's only the Liberians living in Monrovia understand the highest level that they are suffering. And then Adolfo Zilli make a derogatory comment here. We don't support this kind of way people talk to other people. So Adolphus, please modify your language. All right. So we've been discussing this topic. Jimmy, let me hear your final thoughts so we can draw down the curtains. We really, really appreciate the time.
I think we touched some issues. Sometimes you discuss things not always to agree, but to expose the ideas.
Exactly.
And one thing everybody agreed to, that there's things in human nature that needs to be checked.
Yeah.
And our values determine what we get and how we live. So if we really want to change that, we have to examine our values. And the people we elect them based on our values. So if our values not correct, the people who we elect will reflect that. So the ultimate responsibility, since the government is of the people, by the people, and for the people, we are responsible for our destiny. And the only way it will work if we have the proper check and balances in place, so that when we're making a mistake, the system will correct it. That's how they've done other places. We are all fallible, but if you have a system that can check us, then we will be making progress as we change our whole attitude and behaviors.
Wow. And one thing that is also was realized tonight through the conversation was we all have a shared responsibility. Government has a role, the people have their role. And being educated will help. But our value system too, what is it that we place value on? Or how do we reward hard work, honesty, integrity in our community? Because somebody did something 30 years ago, you can't keep living in that past and say, oh, because things are not moving forward. It's time for us as people, because government, some people say the elephant meat. So when people get there, they change. But we, the people, we have to do our part. There was some time when education was denied to people here in America.
Yes.
There was a guy who went to the library to get a book, and they called the police because he was not supposed to be there. So the police got there and said, give the man the book. Today, that guy became an astronaut. So education may not be that great, but there are places that you can find things. One of those places is White Focus on Liberia. Right. Exactly. That's right. You go and sit through someone area's opinion, somebody starting and making noise, and you sit there for 3 hours getting nothing. Okay? Go to school, get education, listen to people, ask questions, learn before the day, and make sure you have learned something new. Okay? Let's make it our responsibility to make change. We'll talk government all the way we want, because when the people get to power, nobody who is making millions of dollars will want to just leave it. Because of our human nature being inherently corrupt, they want to enjoy that forever. If you, the laws that we abide by here, when you get to Liberia, nobody, for instance, nobody wants to pay taxes. So the people, the law here force us to do so. Or you get to the traffic sign, even 3 a.m. when nobody is there, you still stop, because you never know where the police car will come from to pull it behind you. So government have that responsibility to make sure to enforce our laws. They're not doing it because it's convenient for them, because they are the one in power and they keep enjoying. So if we don't check them, they're not going to check themselves. So I believe we should put more responsibility on the people. And that way we can effect a change. The government is all the way up there when you talk, just enjoying. So he wants to do things. Let's vote them out. Let's canvass against them. If you're a student and you're in, for example, University of Liberia, and you are not getting good education, talk about that, okay? Talk against the authority of the school that you are not learning. Compare yourself with other students across West Africa and say, well, I checked this school website and we are not on par. For English 201, this is what we're doing. For English 201, this is what they're doing. Things are not working well for us. And then we take our own destiny in our own hand, even at the same time holding government feet to the fire. But we should not just lose ourselves or think we have no responsibility because somebody is in power and we're going to complain, we're going to protest, we're going to do everything. We too have a responsibility, I believe. But I want to thank all of you for tonight. It was a good discussion and I enjoy it. Mariah Seaton had, he said the leaders, executive, including the legislature, are responsible for the chaos in Liberia. And also say thank you, FOL. Your newscast is very educational. And thank you also for watching, all of you. We want to say tomorrow, please join us at 3 o'clock. We're going to be on our Business and Economic Forum. And on that forum, we'll be discussing the IMF program for Liberia. I know they give us some money and they give us some guidelines and things to do. So we're going to be discussing that. Then on Sunday, we're going to have 2 shows. Last week, there's trouble in Canada. The Federation of Liberian Association in Canada has some trouble. We in America, we had our own trouble too with EULA splitting into 2. There is a new group that came out and said, we are the legitimate Federation of Liberian Association in Canada. We talked to one group last Sunday. This Sunday, we're going to talk to another group. And then at 6 o'clock, there's one comedian, the guy is so good. They call him D. Curtis. We want to talk to him at 6 o'clock. So please come and be here with us so that we can have these shows. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. After the show, you're going to see this on YouTube. Share, continue to share it. Refer people to our YouTube channel to learn. There's a lot of educational materials that will benefit you. So I want to thank you again for coming. Until then, my name is Dennis Ja, wishing you all. Liberia is the one and only whom we have, man. Let's do our best to keep it what we want it to be.